Glass exploded inward as bullets tore through Rosie's diner in downtown Los Angeles at 3:47 in the morning. Diana Adeyemi dropped the coffee pot she'd been refilling and her body moved on instinct, but not toward the floor like everyone else. Her eyes locked on the little girl in the back booth, frozen like a statue, eyes wide but completely dry, mouth open in a scream that produced no sound. 3 men in black suits materialized from nowhere, rushing toward the child with weapons drawn. Diana didn't think. Didn't calculate. She just moved, her body sliding between the armed men and the booth, her arms spread wide. "Back up," she said, her voice steady despite her hammering heart. "You're scaring her." The lead suit, a mountain of a man with a scar across his jaw, raised his gun toward Diana. "Lady, you don't know what you're doing. Move." "No." The single word hung in the air like a challenge. Behind her, Diana could feel the little girl trembling, could sense her shallow breathing, could almost taste her terror. Every instinct screamed at Diana to look back, to comfort the child, but she kept her eyes locked on the armed men. Predators, she thought. They respond to weakness. "I said move." The scarred man took a step forward. "And I said no." Diana's jaw tightened. That little girl is terrified. Whatever's happening here, you charging at her like the damn cavalry isn't helping. A voice cut through the tension like a knife through butter. Controlled. Dangerous. "Let her." Diana's eyes shifted to the doorway. The man who stood there wore a suit that probably cost more than her annual salary. His dark hair was graying at the temples, and his face held the kind of hardness that came from years of making impossible choices. But it was his eyes that made Diana's breath catch. They were fixed on the little girl behind her with an expression that didn't match his cold exterior. Raw and barely contained. The suited men stepped back immediately, weapons lowering. The scarred one actually looked apologetic. The man in the doorway took a single step into the diner, and Diana felt the little girl press harder against her back. Small fingers clutched the fabric of Diana's uniform, and she heard the tiniest whimper, barely audible even in the sudden silence. "She won't come to me," the man said, his Korean accent subtle but present, and Diana realized he was speaking to her. "She hasn't in 6 months. Not since she saw her mother die in front of her. Not since she stopped speaking entirely." Diana felt Aria's heart clenched. She slowly turned her head, careful not to make sudden movements, and looked down at the child behind her. The girl couldn't have been more than 7 years old, with straight black hair and dark brown eyes that held far too much knowledge for someone so young. Her features were distinctly Korean, delicate and beautiful despite the terror written across her face. She wore an expensive dress, now dusty and torn, and her small hands still gripped Diana's uniform like a lifeline. "Hey, sweetheart," Diana whispered in English, keeping her voice soft. "I'm Diana. Nobody's going to hurt you while I'm here, okay?" The little girl's eyes searched Diana's face, looking for something. Trust, maybe. Safety. Something she clearly hadn't found in 6 months. And then, so slowly Diana almost missed it, the child nodded. "My name is Park Jin-woo," the man in the doorway said, his English perfect despite his accent. "Most people call me Vincent. That's my daughter, Aria. And you just did something nobody else has managed to do in half a year. You got her to respond." Diana felt Aria's grip tighten on her uniform. "What happened here? Why were there gunshots?" Vincent's expression darkened. "My enemies want to send a message. They tracked us here. We need to leave. Now." "Where are you taking her?" "That's not your concern." "It is now." Diana surprised herself with her own boldness. "Because she's holding on to me, Mr. Park. And something tells me if I let go, you won't get her out of here without traumatizing her further." Vincent studied Diana for a long moment. Behind him, more suited men had appeared, securing the perimeter. The other diner patrons had long since fled or were huddled behind overturned tables. The scarred man was speaking urgently into a phone in rapid Korean. "Boss, we need to move," the scarred man said, switching to English. "They'll have backup coming." Vincent nodded slowly, then looked back at Diana. "What's your full name?" "Diana Adeyemi." "Diana Adeyemi." You have approximately 10 seconds to decide if you want to walk into a world you can't walk back out of. Because if you come with us now, if you help me get my daughter to safety, you'll be marked. My enemies will know your face. Your life will never be the same. Diana looked down at Aria. The little girl's eyes were pleading, desperate. This child had watched her mother die. Had been silent for 6 months. Had just lived through another attack. And right now, in this moment, Diana was the only thing standing between her and complete collapse. "Let's go," Diana said. They moved as a unit. Vincent's men surrounded them in a protective formation, with Diana carrying Aria, who had wrapped her arms around Diana's neck and buried her face in her shoulder. They exited through the back of the diner into an alley where 3 black SUVs waited, engines running. Diana was guided into the middle vehicle, Aria still clinging to her. Vincent slid in beside them, and the scarred man took the front passenger seat. The moment the doors closed, the convoy lurched forward, tires squealing as they pulled into the night. "Marco," Vincent said to the scarred man, "call ahead. Tell them we're coming in hot and we have a guest." "Yes, boss." Marco made the call in rapid Italian. Aria trembled against Diana's chest, and Diana began to hum softly, an old lullaby her grandmother used to sing. She didn't know why she did it, only that it felt right. The little girl's breathing gradually slowed, and some of the tension left her small body. Vincent watched this interaction with an expression Diana couldn't quite read. She hasn't let anyone hold her since her mother died. Not me. Not her aunt. Not the psychiatrists I hired. No one. Maybe she just needed someone who wasn't part of her world, Diana said quietly, still rocking Aria gently. Someone who didn't have an agenda. Everyone has an agenda. Not me. I don't even know what's happening. All I know is this little girl needed someone, and I was there. Vincent was quiet for a moment. Her mother, Teresa, was killed during a hit meant for me. Aria watched the whole thing. The psychiatrists say she has selective mutism triggered by severe trauma. She understands everything, but she refuses to speak. Refuses to interact. She barely eats. Won't sleep without sedation. She's wasting away in front of me, and I can't do anything to stop it. Diana heard the anguish beneath his controlled tone. This dangerous man, this mafia boss, was utterly helpless in the face of his daughter's pain. "She's speaking now," Diana said. "Just not with words. She told me she trusts me when she held on. That's something, Mr. Park. Vincent. If you're going to be involved in my daughter's life, you should call me Vincent." The SUV turned into an underground garage beneath what looked like a luxury apartment building in Koreatown. They were rushed into an elevator, then up to a penthouse that took Diana's breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and everything screamed wealth and power. Korean art decorated the walls, and Diana noticed traditional elements mixed with modern luxury. But Aria didn't care about any of it. She kept her face buried in Diana's neck, refusing to look at her surroundings. A woman in her 50s rushed forward, her features showing her Korean heritage, concern etched deeply in her face. "Vincent, thank God. We heard what happened. Is she hurt? Is Aria okay?" "She's fine, Sophia. This is Diana Adeyemi. Diana, this is Sophia, my sister." Sophia's eyes widened as she took in the sight of Aria clinging to a black woman she'd never met before. "She's holding her. Vincent, she's actually holding someone." "I know." Vincent's voice was rough with emotion. "Ms. Adeyemi, there's a guest room down that hall, second door on the right. It has a private bathroom. I think Aria would be more comfortable if you could help her clean up and change. Sophia will bring clothes." Diana nodded and carried Aria down the hallway. The guest room was bigger than Diana's entire apartment, decorated in soft neutrals with a bed that looked like a cloud. She sat on the edge of the bed with Aria still in her lap. "Aria, sweetheart," Diana said softly, "we're safe now. Nobody can hurt you here. I'm going to stay with you, okay? I'm not going anywhere." Aria pulled back slightly and looked into Diana's eyes. For the first time, Diana saw the full depth of the child's trauma. Those eyes held nightmares no 7-year-old should ever have witnessed. "I know you're scared," Diana continued. I know the world feels dangerous right now. But I promise you, as long as I'm here, I will keep you safe. Do you believe me? Aria studied Diana's face for what felt like an eternity. Then, with a movement so small Diana almost missed it, the little girl nodded. A knock at the door made Aria tense, but Diana called out, "Come in." Sophia entered with an armful of clothes. I brought several options. Aria used to love picking out her own outfits, but she hasn't shown interest in months. Sophia's eyes were red-rimmed, and Diana realized this woman had been crying. "Thank you. For whatever you did back there. For getting her out safely. I just did what anyone would do." "No," Sophia said firmly. "You didn't. You put yourself between my niece and armed men. You risked your life for a child you'd never met. That's not what anyone would do. That's what a hero does." After Sophia left, Diana helped Aria change into clean clothes, talking softly the entire time about nothing important. The weather. The city lights visible through the window. Her grandmother's lullaby and what it meant. Aria didn't respond verbally, but she was listening. Diana could tell by the way the little girl's eyes tracked her face, by how she leaned in when Diana spoke. When Aria was dressed in soft pajamas, Diana braided her hair gently, remembering how her own mother used to do the same for her back in Lagos before they moved to America. "My mama used to say that braiding hair is like weaving protection," Diana said. "Every twist is a prayer, every strand is a shield. So I'm braiding all my wishes for you into this, Aria. I'm wishing for you to feel safe, to feel love, to find your voice again when you're ready." Aria's small hand reached up and touched the braid, then touched Diana's hand. The gesture was so trusting, so vulnerable, that Diana felt tears prick her eyes. A soft knock interrupted them. Vincent stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "May I come in?" Diana looked at Aria, who tensed but didn't pull away. "It's your daddy, sweetheart. He loves you very much." Vincent entered slowly, carefully, like he was approaching a frightened animal. He knelt a few feet away from the bed, putting himself at Aria's eye level. "Piccola Stella," he said softly, "my little star. I'm so sorry for tonight. I'm sorry you were scared. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you the way I should have." Aria watched him but didn't move toward him. The rejection was subtle but clear, and Diana saw the flash of pain in Vincent's eyes before he masked it. "Diana's going to stay with us for a while," Vincent continued. "As long as you need her. Would you like that?" Aria's grip on Diana's hand tightened, and she nodded enthusiastically. It was the most animated reaction Diana had seen from her. Vincent's smile was sad. Then it settled. "Ms. Adeyemi, we'll discuss the details in the morning. For now, there's a bed here if Aria wants you close." After Vincent left, Diana lay down on the bed with Aria curled against her side. She continued humming the lullaby, and eventually, the little girl's breathing evened out into sleep. It was the first time in 6 months that Aria had fallen asleep without sedation, Sophia would tell her later. The first time she'd slept peacefully at all. Diana lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling and wondering what she'd gotten herself into. She'd walked into something bigger than she could comprehend, something dangerous and complex. But when she looked at the sleeping child beside her, at the peaceful expression on Aria's face for the first time in months, Diana knew she couldn't walk away. Not now. Maybe not ever. The next morning, Diana woke to find Aria already awake, watching her with those enormous eyes. "Good morning, sweetheart," Diana said softly. "Did you sleep okay?" Aria nodded, then did something unexpected. She reached out and touched Diana's face gently, as if making sure she was real. "I'm real," Diana assured her. "I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere unless you want me to." There was a knock on the door, and Sophia entered with a breakfast tray. "I didn't know what you liked, so I brought options." "Vincent wants to speak with you after breakfast, Diana." Over the next hour, as Aria picked at her food and Diana encouraged her with gentle words and patience, the little girl ate more than she had in weeks, according to Sophia. It wasn't much, just some toast and fruit, but it was progress. Vincent's office was everything Diana expected. Dark wood, leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, and a massive desk that spoke of power and authority. Korean calligraphy hung on one wall alongside modern art. But it was the wall of photographs that caught her attention. Aria at various ages, always smiling in the older photos. A beautiful Korean woman who must have been Teresa, laughing at the camera. Family moments frozen in time, before tragedy struck. Those were taken before, Vincent said, following her gaze. Before Teresa died. Before Aria stopped being a child and became a ghost in her own life. Diana sat in the offered chair, and Aria immediately climbed into her lap, something that made Vincent's expression flicker with both pain and hope. I need to be direct, Ms. Adeyemi, Vincent began. What you walked into last night isn't temporary. My enemies won't forget that you protected Aria. They'll see you as leverage, as a vulnerability. The moment you stepped between my men and my daughter, you became part of this world. I understand. Do you? Do you understand that your diner, your apartment, your entire life as you knew it is over? That you can't go back because the moment you do, you'll be a target? Diana had thought about this all night. What are you offering? A position in my household as Aria's caretaker. You'll live here, under protection. You'll be compensated generously. More than you'd make in a year at the diner. In return, you help my daughter heal. You give her the trust and safety she can't seem to find with anyone else. And if I say no? Vincent's expression hardened. Then I'll put you in protective custody at a secure location until the current threat passes. It won't be comfortable, but you'll be safe. But Aria will suffer. She's already attached to you, and losing you now could break something in her that's barely holding together. Diana looked down at the little girl in her lap. Aria was playing with the buttons on Diana's shirt, content in a way that seemed fragile and precious. I have a question first. What makes me different from all the psychiatrists and caregivers you've hired? Vincent leaned back in his chair, studying them both. Honestly? I don't know. Maybe it's because you had no ulterior motive. You didn't know who we were. You just saw a scared child and acted on instinct. Maybe that authenticity is what Aria needed. Someone who wasn't trying to fix her or analyze her. Just someone who saw her pain and responded with compassion. I'll stay, Diana said. But I have conditions. Vincent raised an eyebrow. You're negotiating with me? For Aria, first, no weapons around her. I don't care about your business, but she's traumatized by violence. Second, she needs stability and routine. That means regular meals, regular sleep schedules, and predictable days. Third, no pressure on her to speak. She'll talk when she's ready, and pushing will only hurt her. And fourth, you need to work on rebuilding your relationship with her. I can be her bridge, but you're her father. She needs you too. Vincent was quiet for a long moment. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Maybe both, Diana said with a slight smile. But I mean every word. Take it or leave it. I'll take it. All of it. Vincent stood and extended his hand. Welcome to the family, Diana Adeyemi. The first week was an adjustment. Diana learned the rhythms of the household, the faces of the security team, the subtle hierarchies of Vincent's organization. She also learned about Aria's triggers. Loud noises sent the girl into panic attacks. The color red reminded her of blood and made her shake. Men in dark suits, even Vincent's own security, terrified her unless Diana was present. But there were small victories too. On the third day, Aria laughed for the first time since her mother's death. Diana had been making silly faces while they colored together, and the sound that emerged from Aria's throat was rusty but genuine. Sophia, who had been nearby, actually burst into tears. On the fifth day, Aria let Vincent sit with them during story time. He didn't read, just sat quietly in a chair nearby, watching his daughter slowly accept his presence again. On the seventh day, Aria drew a picture. It showed three figures, a small girl, a tall woman with dark skin, and a man standing slightly apart. Above them, she'd drawn a sun breaking through storm clouds. She handed it to Diana and pointed at each figure, then to the real people they represented. You, me, and your daddy, Diana said, understanding. We're family now, aren't we? Aria nodded, and for the first time, she reached out toward Vincent. Not to touch him yet, but the gesture was clear. An invitation. Progress. Vincent's voice was thick with emotion. Thank you, Piccola Stella. Thank you for letting me back in. But the peace didn't last. 2 weeks into Diana's stay, Marco burst into the playroom where Diana and Aria were building a fort out of blankets. His face was grim. We have a problem. The Choi family knows about Diana. They know she's here. And they're making moves. Diana felt Aria tense against her side. What kind of moves? The kind that means we need to relocate. Vincent's orders. Everyone to the safe house. The next hour was chaos. Diana kept Aria calm by narrating everything that was happening, making it sound like an adventure rather than an escape. They were packed into an armored SUV with Vincent, Marco, and 4 other security personnel. Sophia followed in a second vehicle. As they drove through the Los Angeles streets, Diana noticed Vincent's tension, the way his hand never left his concealed weapon, the way his eyes constantly scanned their surroundings. Vincent, Diana said quietly, is Aria really safe with you? I mean long-term. Because this life, these constant threats, this isn't sustainable for a child trying to heal. Vincent's jaw tightened. I know. I've thought about it every day since Teresa died. But leaving the family business isn't simple. There are obligations, debts, expectations. And even if I walked away, my enemies wouldn't forget. Aria would still be a target because of who I am. Then what's the solution? I don't have one. The admissions seem to cost him. All I can do is protect her as best I can and hope that's enough. Aria had been listening to this exchange, her eyes moving between Diana and Vincent. Suddenly she shifted in her seat, crawling over Diana's lap to sit closer to her father. It was the first time she'd voluntarily chosen proximity to him, and Vincent looked like he'd been given the greatest gift in the world. Aria, he whispered, I promise I will keep you safe. Both of you. The safe house was a fortified estate in the hills outside Los Angeles, surrounded by walls and security cameras. It was designed to withstand a siege, Marco explained as they entered. Diana found it simultaneously impressive and depressing. This was Aria's life now. Moving from fortress to fortress, always looking over her shoulder. That night, as Diana put Aria to bed in their new temporary quarters, the little girl did something extraordinary. She opened her mouth and tried to speak. No sound came out, but her lips formed a single word, stay. Diana's heart nearly burst. I'm staying, sweetheart. I'm not going anywhere. I promise. Aria tried again, and this time, a whisper emerged. Barely audible, hoarse from disuse, but unmistakable. Stay. Diana pulled her into a hug, tears streaming down her face. Yes, baby. Yes, I'll stay. Always. She immediately went to find Vincent, who was in the safe house's command center reviewing security feeds. She spoke, Diana said, her voice shaking with emotion. Vincent, Aria spoke. Just one word, but she spoke. Vincent's composure crumbled. He sat down heavily, his face in his hands, and Diana realized he was crying. What did she say? She asked me to stay. She said, stay. Vincent looked up, and Diana saw the raw emotion in his eyes. She's coming back. My daughter is coming back. But the moment was interrupted by alarms blaring throughout the compound. Marco's voice came over the intercom. We have incoming. Multiple vehicles. Armed hostiles. This is not a drill. Vincent was on his feet instantly, all traces of emotion replaced by cold efficiency. Get Aria to the panic room. Marco will show you the way. Diana ran back to the bedroom, scooping up a confused and frightened Aria. Marco appeared, urgency in every movement. This way. Follow me exactly and don't stop for anything. They moved through hidden passages in the walls, descending into what felt like a bunker. The panic room was steel reinforced, with independent life support systems and communications equipment. Sophia was already there, pale but determined. How bad is it? Diana asked Marco as he secured the door. Bad. The Choi family is making their move. They want to end this tonight. Vincent is mobilizing everyone, but we're outnumbered. He handed Diana a gun. Do you know how to use this? No. Then keep it for emergencies only. Point and shoot if anyone gets through this door who isn't us. He started to leave, then turned back. Take care of her. If something happens to Vincent, Aria is all that matters. You understand? Diana nodded, clutching Aria close. The little girl was shaking, her earlier breakthrough forgotten in the face of new terror. For hours, they waited in that steel room. They could hear muffled sounds of gunfire, explosions, shouting. Sophia paced like a caged animal. Diana sang to Aria, the same lullaby, over and over, trying to drown out the sounds of battle above them. And then silence. Terrible, complete silence. They waited. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Aria had gone completely still, barely breathing, her eyes fixed on the door. Finally, there was a knock. 3 rapid, 2 slow, 1 rapid. Marco's code. Sophia opened the door, and Marco stood there, bloody but alive. It's over. We won. But Vincent's hurt. He's asking for Aria. They found Vincent in the medical room, being tended to by the estate's doctor. He had a bullet wound in his shoulder and various cuts and bruises, but he was conscious and alert. When Aria saw him, she made a sound Diana had never heard from her before. A cry of distress and relief combined. Aria pulled away from Diana and ran to her father, throwing herself at him despite his injuries. Vincent wrapped his good arm around her, holding her close, and Diana saw tears streaming down both their faces. I'm okay, Piccola Stella, Vincent murmured. I'm okay. I promised I'd keep you safe, and I did. And then, clear as a bell, stronger than her whisper from earlier, Aria spoke. Appa. The room went still. Everyone stopped what they were doing. Vincent's eyes widened in shock and hope. She had called him father in Korean, the language of her earliest memories with her mother. Appa, Aria said again, and then the words came tumbling out in a mix of English and Korean, hoarse and halting but real. Don't die. Please don't die. I love you. Sarangi. I'm sorry I didn't talk. I'm sorry. Please don't leave me like mommy. Vincent pulled her closer, his face contorted with emotion. Never, baby. I will never leave you. Never. I love you so much. Diana watched this reunion through her own tears, and she felt Sophia's hand on her shoulder. You did this, Sophia whispered. You gave her back to us. But Diana shook her head. No. I just built the bridge. Aria did this herself. She's stronger than any of us knew. Over the following weeks, Aria's recovery accelerated. She didn't speak constantly, and there were still days when the trauma caught up with her, when she went silent again or woke up screaming. But those days became fewer. Vincent scaled back his business operations, delegating more and prioritizing his daughter. He spent hours with her and Diana, relearning how to be a father, how to provide comfort instead of just protection. 3 months after that night at Rosie's diner, Diana sat in the garden of Vincent's estate, watching Aria play with Sophia's children who had come to visit. The little girl was laughing, running through the grass, looking like a normal 7-year-old for the first time in Diana's memory. Vincent sat down beside her, 2 cups of coffee in hand. He offered her one. I never properly thanked you. For what? For being fearless when everyone else ran. For seeing my daughter when everyone else saw a broken child. For staying when you could have walked away. He paused. For being the mother she needed when she'd lost her own. Diana felt tears prick her eyes. I didn't do anything special, Vincent. I just loved her. That's everything, Vincent said quietly. Don't you see? Love was what she needed most, and you gave it freely, expecting nothing in return. You saved her life as surely as if you'd taken a bullet for her. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Aria play. The little girl ran over to them, breathless and happy. Diana, come play with us. Diana stood, letting Aria pull her toward the other children. But she paused and looked back at Vincent. Are you coming, Appa? Vincent's face lit up with joy at the easy use of that title, the Korean word for father that meant everything to him. I'm right behind you, Natal, he said, calling her my daughter in their shared language. As they played together, the 3 of them forming a strange but perfect family, Diana reflected on how much her life had changed. She'd walked away from everything familiar, stepped into a dangerous world, and found something she hadn't even known she was missing. Purpose. Family. Aria was healing, slowly but surely. Vincent was learning to balance his world with his daughter's needs. And Diana had found her place in a family that wasn't bound by blood but by choice, by sacrifice, by the fierce determination to protect and love each other no matter the cost. That night, as Diana tucked Aria into bed, the little girl spoke softly. "Diana, are you really staying forever?" Diana smiled and stroked her hair. "As long as you need me, sweetheart. As long as you want me here." "Forever then," Aria said firmly. "I want you here forever. You and Daddy and Aunt Sophia and everyone. We're family now." "Yes, we are," Diana agreed. "We're family." Aria's eyes started to drift closed, but she fought sleep for a moment longer. "Diana? Thank you for not running away that night. Thank you for staying when I needed someone to be brave for me." Diana felt her throat tighten with emotion. "Thank you for trusting me when you couldn't trust anyone else. You're the bravest person I know, Aria. Never forget that." As Aria finally fell asleep, Diana sat by her bed and thought about the woman she'd been 3 months ago. A waitress in a diner, living a simple, predictable life. That woman wouldn't recognize the person she'd become. This woman lived behind security walls, navigated the complexities of a mafia family, and had a daughter in all but name. And she wouldn't change a single thing. Vincent appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame. "She's asleep?" Diana nodded. "Finally. She wanted to make sure I wasn't going anywhere." "Are you going anywhere?" Diana looked at the sleeping child, at the peaceful expression on her face, at the trust and love that had grown between them. "No. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Vincent smiled, rare and genuine. "Good. Because I don't think either of us could survive losing you now. You've become the heart of this family, Diana. The anchor that keeps us grounded and human in a world that tries to make us cold." 6 months after that fateful night at the diner, Aria stood in front of her second-grade class at her new private school and read a story she'd written. It was about a princess who couldn't speak, a kingdom in danger, and a brave warrior who taught her that silence could be broken with love and courage. Diana and Vincent sat in the back of the classroom, watching with pride as Aria read confidently, her voice strong and clear. When she finished, the class applauded, and Aria beamed at them. After school, as they walked to the car surrounded by discreet security, Aria held both Diana's and Vincent's hands, swinging between them. "Can we get ice cream?" "Absolutely," Vincent said. "What flavor are you thinking?" "Chocolate." "No strawberry." "No, both." Diana laughed. "That's my girl. Never settle for just one when you can have both." As they drove to the ice cream shop, Diana reflected on the journey they'd all taken. Aria had found her voice again, learned to trust, learned to heal. Vincent had learned to balance his dangerous world with being a present, loving father. And Diana had found a family she never knew she needed, a purpose that fulfilled her in ways her old life never had. That night, after ice cream and dinner and bedtime stories, after Aria was asleep and the house was quiet, Diana stood on the balcony looking out at the city lights. Vincent joined her, and they stood in comfortable silence. "I've made a decision," Vincent said finally. "I'm getting out. Not immediately, but I'm creating an exit strategy. Aria deserves better than a life lived in fear. She deserves to grow up normal, safe, happy. And I can't give her that while I'm still running the family business." Diana turned to look at him, surprised. "That's a big decision." "It's the right one. You asked me months ago if Aria was really safe with me long-term. The answer was no. But I'm going to change that. It'll take time, maybe years, but I'm going to build a life where my daughter can just be a kid. Where you can live without armed guards and panic rooms. Where we can be a real family. We already are a real family, Vincent. Not traditional, maybe, but real." Vincent smiled and put his arm around her shoulders in a gesture that had become comfortable over the months. "Yes, we are. And I intend to protect that family with everything I have." Inside, they heard Aria call out. Not a nightmare this time, just checking that they were there. Diana went to her, and Vincent followed. They found Aria sitting up in bed, clutching her favorite stuffed animal. "I had a dream," Aria said. "A good one. We were at the beach, all of us. And we were happy. Really, really happy." "Then that's where we'll go this weekend," Vincent decided. "The beach. All of us. We'll make your dream real." Aria's face lit up. "Really? With sandcastles and swimming and everything?" "Everything," Vincent promised. As Diana tucked Aria back in and they left the room together, Vincent spoke quietly. "Thank you, Diana. For giving me back my daughter. For giving me back myself. For showing me what really matters." Diana smiled. "We saved each other, Vincent. All three of us. That's what families do." And in that moment, standing in the hallway of a fortified mansion, with a healing child sleeping nearby and a dangerous man learning to be gentle, Diana knew she'd found something more precious than safety or security. She'd found home. If this story touched your heart, if you found yourself rooting for Diana, Vincent, and Aria, then please hit that subscribe button and join our community. Leave a comment below telling us what you thought about Aria's journey from silence to finding her voice again. And don't forget to like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear a story about the healing power of trust and love. Because sometimes, the most unexpected connections become the most important ones in our lives. Sometimes, a stranger's courage in a single moment can change everything. And sometimes, family isn't about blood at all, but about choosing each other every single day, no matter what. Until next time, remember that your voice matters, your courage counts, and you never know when a simple act of compassion might change someone's entire world.